My wife and I pull up to the trailhead and park our car. And as we get out, we're putting our backpacks on and making sure that we have water. And it's at this point I decide that I'm not going to grab my hiking poles because I don't need the help. Everything that we've read about this trail, about this hike, is that it's pretty well populated. And the story I tell myself about that is that that must mean it's easy. If it's really popular, it must be easy. So I don't want to have poles in my hand. So we head off on this hike, and for the first 15, 20 minutes, this is a wide trail, and it's a flat trail, and it follows a river upstream. And I'm thinking, this is even easier than I thought. I made a good decision not to bring these hiking poles. The only real thing that's getting in my way are all these tree roots that I happen to be tripping over. So about 15, 20 minutes into this hike, I go to step on a tree root, and it starts moving. That is a gigantic snake. So my body moved in ways I didn't know it was possible, and somehow avoided this snake. But it didn't want anything to do with me. But my heart rate, it took a long time. It took minutes for my heart rate to get back down. I about freaked. So keep on going. Still pretty easy, but about 30 minutes in, we started to realize that this trail is starting to narrow. And it's getting harder to navigate. And we're starting to get some steep switchbacks and some really steep inclines. And it's kind of sore on our legs to keep climbing and keep climbing and keep climbing. And we're running out of breath because we're, having to climb like this. And made a couple of wrong turns, but it's okay. And so this got more challenging. It got far more challenging. And I kind of wish I had my hiking poles at this point. But eventually, we did make it to the waterfall, and we took in the sights, and it was a beautiful sight, and we realized that would be really cool to go up to the top of this waterfall. So we did. So we continued on the trail. Now, at this point, we couldn't even call it a trail anymore. This was not a trail. This was what I would call rock climbing. And we're with our dog, so we're literally scaling up rocks to keep going on this trail to get to the top of this mountain where the waterfall starts and where we had some really good views. We have our dog with, and she can kind of get up there. She's pretty good at getting up the rocks, but it was nothing that we expected that we were going to have to do. So several more rock climbs later and several more wrong turns later, we finally make it to the top. We take in all the views from up top, and it's really beautiful and gorgeous up there. And when we come back down, we realize that coming down is even harder than going up, because we have to try to scale down these rocks now. And our dog has to try to scale down these rocks with us. And there was a couple of points where she just wouldn't do it. So we had to grab her, and she's a medium-sized dog, 50, 60 pounds. So we had to hold her, climb down the rocks, which is no easy feat. But we did it, and we got back, and we're happy we did it. But as we reflect on this hike, a couple things come to mind. First, the steepness of these switchbacks, the narrowness of this trail, the difficulty of this trail, coupled with the heat and humidity were intense. They were incredible. But we realized, wait a second, we're climbing to the top of a mountain in the summer. What else would we expect? This is what we should have expected. We should have expected a difficult trail, and we should expect there to be heat, because that's what we're signing up for. Further, we wouldn't even want a situation where it was a really simple walk to get to these views. That would defeat the purpose of it. More people would be there. It'd be far more crowded. There wouldn't be a sense of accomplishment. So we wouldn't even want a world where there was no challenge or setback. And the second thing that we realized was there are some things that happened that we couldn't have expected. Nobody goes out thinking that I'm going to have to carry my dog down some rocks when I go on this hike, or that we're going to have to rock climb. And it's not every day that you almost step on a gigantic snake. But these things happened. Okay, so the idea here is that there are some things that we knew were going to happen, or should have known were going to happen. This is, we knew it was going to be hot, and we knew it was going to be a challenge. We should have expected that. That's exactly what we signed up for. We can view those as obstacles. Obstacles are guaranteed to happen, and we can learn to navigate those, or we can take on those obstacles knowing intentionally that we're doing it. Further, those obstacles are exactly what made this hike worthwhile. And a little bit different from that are something that I call setbacks. Setback is something that sets you back. It gets in your way. It's not an obstacle. It's not guaranteed. Almost stepping on a snake, having to do some rock climbing, those were setbacks. But again, same with obstacles. When setbacks happen, it does make the journey worthwhile. All challenges make the journey worthwhile. We shouldn't want a world with no struggle. But differentiating between things that we know are going to happen and things that might happen can mean all the difference as we go about our lives. Find out more right after this. Hey, it's Derek Hagan. I'm a financial therapist here with another Money Health presentation where I want to talk about the difference between setbacks and obstacles as they relate to challenges. So, challenges you can think of as a big, broad term, a big idea of something that you have to overcome, a problem to solve. This doesn't always have to be stressful, but there's something that you have to do. I mean, depending on how you view it, having to cook dinner is a challenge versus having something delivered. But some people really like to cook, so think of it that way. Like a challenge, there's all kinds of different kinds of challenges. Two kinds of challenges are setbacks and obstacles, and you notice I drew these without any overlap because setbacks are not the same as obstacles. They are quite different. And what I want to help get the idea along is that if we treat obstacles as if they're setbacks, we're going to add undue stress to ourselves that we don't need. Okay. And all these challenges come to a point where they're actually worthwhile. Those bad times make the good times worth it, whether it's setbacks or obstacles. But think of it this way. If I go driving, if I have a commute, I'm going to meet somebody for lunch somewhere. I know for a fact there's going to be somebody that cuts me off in traffic, or there's going to be some kind of maniac driver, somebody driving way too fast, somebody that cuts me off, somebody that doesn't go when they're supposed to at the stoplight. Okay, that some maniac driver, what I'm calling a maniac driver, is going to exist. That's an obstacle. I know that's going to happen. Similarly, or not so similarly, I could blow a tire on my way to lunch. And that's not guaranteed to happen, but it's possible. And I know that's possible. But whatever the challenge is, it's those negative events down here in red that make the positive events worthwhile. Humans are very good at getting used to their surroundings. They call the term for this is hedonic adaptation. As soon as we get something, we get used to it. So if we were happy all the time and had no challenges or struggles, well, first of all, our sensitivity would drop and every little thing would feel like a negative experience to us. We would just be hypersensitive. Second, what we feel as happiness right now wouldn't be happiness anymore because that would be the new baseline if we were always happy all the time. And we would get used to that baseline, so we would need a little extra shot of joy in order to feel happy. We don't want a world that doesn't have struggles. But if we can start to understand the difference between the different kinds of challenges, different kinds of things down here in red, that'll be far more likely. How many times have you had an obstacle occur? Now again, an obstacle is something that you know is going to happen. It's something that's in your way. You want to get here, you have to navigate around obstacles. My guess is, for many of you, when you encounter that first obstacle, you get upset. Like, wow, why is this happening? Why is this guy cutting me off? But I urge you to start to think about these challenges differently, because if you knew for a fact somebody was going to cut you off, if you knew for a fact it was going to be hot on that hike, if you knew for a fact if you started this business there would be people that wanted you out of that business, competitors, if you knew for a fact there were going to be challenging customers in this new job, if you knew for a fact that there was going to be some late nights at that job you took, then it doesn't make sense, if you think about it, to get upset over that because you knew it was going to happen. You knew it was going to happen. You have to navigate obstacles. So just this little reframe can help shift our mindset a little bit around how calm we can stay in the face of the challenges that present themselves. Now, setback, on the other hand, that's something that bang, pops out of nowhere, like this little Jack-in-the-Box guy that I drew with very angry eyes. A setback is something that you didn't know was going to happen. That's different than something that's an obstacle that you know is going to happen. This is something that comes out of nowhere. Now, they're all probable. You knew that it was possible to blow a tire when you were driving to lunch. You knew it was possible that there would be a really challenging part in that hike, or that you might come across some wildlife. Now, the range of how possible that is differs. Okay, it's not guaranteed that I'm going to hit every red light on the way to the gym. Right? But if I do, you could call that a setback. But it's possible, and it's likely even. And it's also not guaranteed that I'm going to blow a tire on the way or get in an accident on the way to the gym. But it's technically possible. These are called setbacks. They come out of nowhere. They're different. If you treat obstacles, those things that you know are going to happen, as setbacks, you're adding unnecessary stress to your life. I want to talk a little bit about some nuance here, because if you followed me for any time, you know that one thing that I drive over and over is that setbacks are guaranteed. Now, that might sound a little bit wishy-washy based on what I said today, because today I said obstacles are guaranteed, setbacks are possible. But how does that reconcile with setbacks are guaranteed? The difference is an obstacle is a specific thing that you know is going to happen. A setback, a singular setback, is something that's possible but is not guaranteed to happen, may not even be likely. But what is possible, or what is not even just possible, what is guaranteed is that some setback will happen. Okay, so this setback may have a low probability, and this setback has a low probability, and so on, and so on, and so on. So a specific setback is not guaranteed. Some setback is guaranteed. So in other words, all the possible setbacks you can think of as an obstacle, if you want to. I just want to make that distinction, that a setback is not guaranteed, but some setback is guaranteed. So that's a distinction that we can make there. Now, no matter if we call it a challenge or a setback or an obstacle or a problem or whatever else you want to call it, whenever that happens, whenever it arises, whether it was guaranteed, whether it was highly likely, whether it was very unlikely, whether we thought it was even possible, doesn't matter. As soon as it happens, it's in the present moment, it's right on our lap. We now have a problem to solve. That's the most important thing. When it happens, you need to fix the problem. Complaining about the problem, that's worthless until you solve the problem. So as soon as it lands in your lap, you have a problem. As soon as you spill the wine on the carpet, there's wine on your carpet. Go clean the wine up. As soon as you get in a car accident, you have a car accident that you're involved in. You have to take care of that. That becomes your main priority. Fixing the problem is your main priority, whether it was likely or not. Okay, so once something happens, you got to realize you can't change the past, and your new priority is to fix the problem. You can think of it as a challenge from, say, the universe. The universe, just assume, doesn't give you problems that you can't solve. So as soon as you see a setback, as soon as you see an obstacle or any kind of challenge, you get to say, okay, challenge accepted, universe. I got this. And you can go about solving it. So prepare ahead of time. Looking into the future, you can understand what the obstacles are. And you can prepare for them. You can have a good sense of what some of the setbacks will be, but understand that you don't know which setback is going to happen, but some setbacks will happen. Changing your expectations will help dampen the blow when they do happen. But once they happen, you have a problem to solve.